There's something a lot of people don't realize about men. Something simple, but deeply powerful. It's this. Men crave admiration. Not the over-the-top kind, not the kind that comes from a place of trying too hard or putting someone on a pedestal, but the kind that feels authentic, real. When a man feels truly admired and respected by someone he's attracted to, it hits a part of him that very few things do. It's like his internal wiring lights up and suddenly he feels not just desired, but deeply connected. It's not just about physical chemistry or attraction. It's about emotional gravity. Now, some people might confuse admiration with ego stroking, but that's not what I'm talking about. This isn't about feeding a man's insecurities or giving empty compliments just to keep him around. Real admiration is rooted in seeing someone. It's about noticing the things he's proud of, the things he's worked for, the character behind his actions, and appreciating those things in a way that's not performative. You might think, but isn't that obvious? And the truth is, no. So many men go through life trying to prove themselves in 100 different ways, at work, with their friends, even in their own heads, and still feel unseen. So when a woman comes along who doesn't need him to impress her, but still genuinely sees something in him to admire, it stands out, it becomes rare, it becomes meaningful, it melts through the noise of his everyday life and makes her unforgettable. Think about it. We all want to feel like the best version of ourselves around the person we're with. When a man senses that you recognize his best parts, even when he might be struggling to see them, it's deeply magnetic. But here's the key. It has to come from a place of sincerity. You can't fake admiration. Men are more intuitive than they're often given credit for. If he feels like your compliments are transactional or like you're saying something just to get a reaction, it falls flat. But when it's real, when it's that moment where you're talking and you pause, look at him and say, you know what I love about you? You're so grounded. You always stay calm when things get stressful. That moment lands, it stays with him. And it's not about grand declarations. Sometimes the smallest moments have the most weight. The way you look at him when he's focused on something he cares about, the way you light up when he shares a win, or how you express genuine interest in how he thinks, what drives him, or what he's trying to build. Those micro moments build into something massive over time. They create a feeling in him that he matters, not just for what he does, but for who he is. And when a man feels that, he wants to be closer. He wants to keep showing up, not because he has to, but because you bring something out in him that he values more than anything. The feeling of being seen. And look, respect is tied into this. It's not just about admiring his strengths, but also respecting the way he moves through the world, his decisions, his mindset, his ambition. Even if you don't always agree with everything, finding those areas where you do respect him and expressing it gives him a sense of pride. And when a man feels proud around you, he associates you with his strength, with his confidence, and that is incredibly attractive to him. And it's also worth noting that this kind of admiration isn't something that only comes later, after years of getting to know someone. You can create these moments early on in dating. You can be curious. You can ask thoughtful questions that show you're paying attention. When a guy talks about how he's pushing himself in his work or showing up for people in his life, don't just nod. Let him know that you see the effort, that it's impressive, that it stands out. Because here's the truth. So many people are waiting to be admired before they're willing to admire someone else. They hold it back as if it's a prize to be earned. But admiration isn't about being naive or vulnerable. It's about being generous in a powerful way. It's about choosing to recognize the good in someone instead of waiting for them to prove it over and over. And when you do that with a man who's truly worth it, you unlock a level of connection that no surface level flirting or game planning could ever replicate. When you admire a man from a place of confidence and clarity, not because you need him, but because you truly see him, that's when you begin to melt his mind. We don't talk enough about emotional safety when it comes to what turns a man on. But let me tell you something that may surprise you. For so many men, real connection starts when they feel they don't have to be strong all the time, when they can finally take the armor off, even if it's just for a little while. It's easy to think that men always want to feel powerful, dominant, in control. And yes, there are moments for that. But what people miss is how deeply men crave softness, not weakness, softness. That energy where he doesn't feel like he has to perform, prove himself, or pretend. That space where he feels like he can breathe. Men are taught to be stoic. From a young age, the messaging is don't cry, don't show too much, don't be needy, don't fall apart. So they go through life carrying this emotional weight that they rarely get to put down. And it's exhausting. So when a woman comes into his world and without even trying to fix anything, simply allows him to be without judgment, without pressure, it's disarming in the most beautiful way. It's rare and it's deeply attractive. There's a kind of intimacy that comes from emotional safety that can't be replaced by any amount of physical chemistry. When a man feels emotionally safe with you, something shifts in him. His walls start to come down. He doesn't just show you the confident, polished version of himself. He starts to share the parts he doesn't show to most people. His doubts, his dreams, his fears, the stuff that keeps him up at night. And when those things are met with warmth instead of distance or criticism, it creates a bond that is powerful, lasting, and yes, completely magnetic. But here's the thing, that emotional safety doesn't come from just saying you're a safe person. It comes from showing up with your energy, your presence. It's in the way you listen. It's in the way you don't interrupt to fix something the moment he shares it. It's how you sit in the silence when he's trying to find the words. It's how you let him have his own process without making it about you. That's what creates trust. That's what makes him feel like I can finally exhale around this person. And when a man gets to that place, when he feels like he can just be, something beautiful happens. He relaxes. And when a man relaxes, his desire becomes deeper. Not just sexual desire, but the desire to be close to you, to invest in you, to open up to you in ways he doesn't with anyone else. And yes, it becomes incredibly erotic too. Because when a man feels emotionally safe, he stops performing, he becomes real. And that kind of realness, that emotional nakedness, it's vulnerable, yes, but it's also one of the most psychologically arousing things there is. A lot of people think the way to attract a man is by being mysterious or by constantly keeping him guessing. And sure, a little intrigue is exciting, but what melts a man, what touches something far beneath the surface, is when he feels like he can be seen without being exposed. When he can talk about his failures and you don't flinch. When he can be angry or scared or lost and still feel worthy of your affection. That's the kind of experience that sticks with him. That's the kind of connection he'll crave over and over again. This doesn't mean you become his therapist or absorb his emotional baggage. Emotional safety isn't about fixing him or carrying his weight. It's about being someone who knows how to hold space, not forever, not endlessly, but long enough for him to come back to himself. And when you do that from a place of strength and empathy, you become the person he associates with peace, with coming home, with warmth. And let's not forget, this kind of emotional connection is a two-way street. The more emotionally safe you feel with him, the more you naturally offer that back. So it's not about being overly accommodating or self-sacrificing. It's about showing up as someone emotionally intelligent enough to know when to soften and when to step back, when to ask questions and when to just hold eye contact, when to reassure and when to simply say, I'm here. Because at the end of the day, what turns a man on deeply, psychologically, isn't just your body or your words. It's the feeling he gets when he's with you, the feeling that in a world constantly asking him to be more, prove more, do more. He doesn't have to do anything at all to be wanted. One of the most misunderstood things about attraction, especially when it comes to men, is the idea of challenge. Now, when people hear that word, they often think it means playing games, acting disinterested, or pretending to be unavailable. That's not what I'm talking about. The kind of challenge I'm referring to is subtle, it's playful, it's magnetic, and most importantly, it's real. It's about showing that you're someone with your own mind, your own rhythm, and your own sense of value, that you're not just waiting around for someone to choose you, but you're choosing too. Men are naturally drawn to mystery. Not the cold, confusing kind that makes him feel like he's constantly guessing whether you even like him, but the kind that leaves just enough space for him to wonder, what's going on in her head? What drives her? What's she thinking when she gives me that smile and doesn't say a word? That psychological tension is exciting. It lights something up in a man's brain because it means there's more to discover. It means the connection isn't predictable. And the truth is, no one falls in love with predictable. A lot of people, in an effort to get closer to someone, tend to over-explain themselves. They want to make everything clear, reassure, fill every silence, spell out every emotion. But sometimes a little restraint, just a touch of ambiguity, can be incredibly powerful. It keeps the conversation alive. It keeps him leaning in. Think about the moments where you share something personal, but not everything. Or when you look at him a certain way, but leave the meaning up to his imagination. These aren't manipulative tactics. They're about creating space for attraction to breathe. And it's not just about mystery. It's about showing that you have standards, that you won't just say yes to any kind of behavior, that you have your own boundaries, your own sense of what you will and won't accept. That's attractive. Because when a man senses that you're not afraid to walk away from something that doesn't serve you, he respects you more. It signals to him that your attention is valuable, that he has to earn not just your time, but your energy. And here's the twist. When he does earn it, when you give him that smile, that compliment, that soft moment, that reward hits differently. It lands with so much more impact because it wasn't handed out cheaply. It was meaningful. And that contrast, that rhythm between challenge and warmth is irresistible. Think about this dynamic like tension in a really good story. Every great story has peaks and pauses, excitement and mystery. The reader doesn't want to know everything on page one. They want the journey, the layers, the slow reveal. And it's the same in attraction. If you're too available, too predictable, too open from the start, you skip the part that makes him want to figure you out. And that's not about being fake or withholding. It's about pacing. It's about confidence. It's about knowing that you don't need to give everything away to be loved. You can take your time. You should take your time. Now, challenge also shows up in the way you interact. It's in the way you tease him with affection, the way you challenge his ideas in a playful way, the way you push back when he expects agreement. When a woman engages a man's mind like that, keeps him on his toes just enough to be excited, it stirs up something deeper than physical attraction. It becomes mental stimulation. He begins to associate you with energy, with passion, with life. It doesn't feel flat. It feels alive. And that, more than anything, is what makes him want more. And let's be honest, when a man senses that you could have anyone, but you're choosing to spend time with him, it wakes something up in him. He stops taking you for granted. He leans in. He wants to keep earning that place in your life. Because you haven't made it easy in a way that makes it boring, you've made it real. And with that kind of realness comes respect, effort, and emotional investment. So no, you don't need to play games. You don't need to pretend you don't care or act like you're too cool to be bothered. What you need is the confidence to let a little tension exist, the awareness to know that mystery isn't about silence, but about depth, and the belief that you are worth discovering over time in layers without rush. Because when a man feels just enough challenge to stay curious, but still enough warmth to stay connected, you don't just catch his attention, you capture his mind. There's a specific kind of attraction that goes way beyond looks, way beyond surface level chemistry. And it starts when someone really taps into what drives you, what lights you up. And for a man, one of the most powerful psychological turn-ons is feeling like a woman genuinely gets what he's passionate about, not just the hobby version he mentions in small talk, but the thing that fuels him, the thing he wakes up thinking about, the thing he's chasing when no one's watching. When a man feels that level of attunement, it's more than appealing. It's intoxicating. And this has nothing to do with being into the exact same things. You don't have to be an expert in his industry or obsessed with the same activities. It's not about mirroring his interests. It's about showing that you care about why it matters to him. It's about being curious, not in a performative way, but with genuine interest. When you ask him questions that make him light up, when you create space for him to talk about what drives him without judgment or disinterest, it triggers something in him. He begins to associate you with his purpose, his growth, his ambition. And when a man connects you to the most meaningful parts of himself, he doesn't just feel attracted, he feels emotionally invested. A lot of people don't realize how rare that is for a man, because more often than not, he's either expected to tone it down or he's met with polite surface level nods. So when someone actually listens, really listens, and reflects his passion back to him in a way that says, I see how much this means to you, it's incredibly powerful. It makes you stand out in a world full of people who only care about what someone can give them rather than who someone is at their core. And here's the beautiful part. When you show interest in what inspires him, you unlock a deeper version of him. He starts to share more, think out loud, dream bigger, even in front of you. You become the person he wants to brainstorm with, the one he comes to when he's uncertain, when he's excited, when he's got a crazy idea and needs someone who believes in it. And that trust, that emotional alliance is what turns mere attraction into real intimacy, because you're not just there for the good times or the flirtation or the surface conversations. You've tapped into his why. And that's something most people never get close to. It's also about showing that you're someone with your own passion, that you're not orbiting around his life, but you've got your own solar system too. When he sees that you're lit up by your own goals, that you chase your own version of meaning and fulfillment, it doesn't threaten him. It draws him in, because now he sees you not as someone who needs to be rescued or impressed, but as someone who lives with purpose too. That's rare and incredibly sexy. A relationship built on mutual admiration, where you both honor each other's drive, is the kind of relationship that never goes stale. It evolves, it grows. And this connection doesn't have to be serious or heavy all the time. It can come through in playful ways too. When you tease him about how intense he gets when he talks about his next big plan. When you surprise him with something small that shows you remembered a detail, like bringing up a dream he shared with you weeks ago. That kind of emotional attunement builds a sense of safety and excitement at the same time. It tells him, I'm paying attention. I care about what matters to you. And for a man, that's incredibly validating. It makes him feel seen in a way that goes far beyond physical attraction. The truth is, when someone really understands what fuels you, they see the version of you that even you sometimes forget. And when you become that person for a man, the one who reminds him of his own greatness, who reflects his purpose back to him without judgment or ego, you become unforgettable. You become more than just someone he likes spending time with. You become the person who amplifies who he is. And that kind of connection doesn't fade. It stays, it grows, it pulls him closer, not just in moments of excitement, but even in the quiet moments when he's asking himself who he wants by his side as he builds something meaningful. Because at the end of the day, it's not about being impressed by his life. It's about being emotionally invested in the man who's building it.